Hello, Maria. Good afternoon.
Hello, Pamela. Hi, Kai. Good
Hi,
morning
Kai.
to
Hello.
you.
How's it going?
Good, good. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for asking.
Thank you. All
Good.
good. And you?
Yes, wonderful. Yeah, we're here in, I'm here, me, myself, and I, we. We're here in Southern California and we have sunshine, and at least we hope the rain has left us for a while. So, how are you doing, Maria, out there in UK?
Oh, the rain has left you for sure. It's all here. So, yeah, it's a lovely rainy day in the UK with forecast for more rain to come. So, yes, I'm there in South California, Pamela. And Kai, how are you?
Oh, it's hot. It's like 99 degrees today.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 8 in the morning and it's already like 70s.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness. Oh my
So,
goodness. So what are we talking about today, Maria?
Well, Pamela, thank you for suggesting that new topic. Actually, it's not new, but now with the IBM latest report on the cost of data breaches, thank you for suggesting getting back to that very important topic. So, yeah, the cost of data breaches.
Wow. That's really on everybody's mind right now. I mean, every day in the news around the world, but especially here in the USA, every day we're reading about data breaches, whether it be, um, what is it, efile.com, where everybody files their income taxes. They actually had malware for 2 weeks that was going out to their clients and everybody that has used that in the last month, I guess. But that is pretty significant because everyone that files their IRS taxes through e-file got malware over a 2-week period. Bad.
Interesting you mentioned this because according to the latest report, as I say, I loved it when I saw it and I highly recommend it. Uh, 19% of this occurred in 2022 because of compromise at a business partner.
Oh, wow.
And just for information, because people, as you say, always ask, how much does it cost? So they came up with the average amount of 4.35 million per breach on
Wow.
average, which comes quite up to 4.85 in organizations that operate on a strategic sector.
That's
is that
so high.
is that 35 million per company or is that in total?
4.35 million per company per breach.
Wow.
So the interesting thing, thank you, Kai, for asking it, because the report as well states that 83% of the organizations have been breached more than once in 2022.
Wow.
So what I'm hearing then is if you've been breached one time, then you have a higher likelihood of it happening a second time. Is that correct?
Uh, yes and no.
Okay.
Honestly, based on the figures, one would say you are, but for the first time this year, they focus on new topics, on new elements, and one of those is the so-called extended detection and response (XDR), which includes not only artificial intelligence tool and sophisticated software, but also management standards implemented to help the organization actually identify on time the breach. So, how long do you think it takes for a breach to be detected and resolved on average? A suggestion,
I'd say maybe a week depending on how long it takes or depending on how bad the breach is.
Pamela?
I'd say more like maybe a month.
277 days on
Wow.
Wow.
average.
Okay.
And yes, it actually takes a long time. It's a common misconception to think that it is quickly detected. Between the data breach, its detection, and the resolution, the case The average is 277 days, and in many cases, depending on the type of breach, it may take even longer.
Mm.
Interestingly enough, 19%, as I said, the breaches occurred last year because of a compromised business partner, but also 19%, another 19% breaches occurred because of lost or compromised um, identifications
Mm.
or credentials.
Wow.
So what IBM found last year, that on average it takes nearly 290 days to resolve any breaches as a result of compromised credentials.
Mm.
It's you get quite in a quicker manner. You get, for instance, breaches on the cloud. It's below average compared to breaches such as credentials or compromised supply chain customers or any other partner.
Mm. So for customers that may have experienced a data breach in the past or that are, worried about experiencing one in the future, how would ISO 27001, how would that, you know, maybe help them with preventing a data breach or, just alleviating that concern?
Brilliant question, Kay. Thank you. 27001 is an international standard and it's a management standard in the first place. It's an ISO standard. It means that thanks to the requirements of the standard, organizations learn how to manage their information security. In addition, it's a slash IEC standard, IE standing for International Electrotechnical Commission. So it's a combined standard, management on the one hand, and very technical on the other hand. It means that organizations working in conformity with the standard know, let's say, learn how to manage their activities, internal, external activities, how to operate in their organizational environment, and on top of that, they benefit from the best technological knowledge and acumen worldwide, thanks to the IEC involvement as well. So let's remember that it's not only an ISO standard, but also a highly technical and technological standard as well. It gives the opportunity for organization to benefit from both sides, business side, the organizational side, as well as the technical side.
Okay, interesting. And then one thing I want to ask you, and one thing that I've read about is that 27001 is the most highly recognized international standard for cybersecurity. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct. I see why you're asking the question. Maybe there is something like SOC 2 Part 2 involved behind your question.
Yeah, that was my next question because I
Yeah.
see that really popular here in the States, especially. A lot of companies that are SOC 2 Type 2 certified or up to that standard, they don't really feel the need for 27001. So I was wondering, if I was a customer that only had SOC 2 Type 2 and I was in the States, why would I want to go out and pursue 27001?
SOC 2 Type 2 is actually quite a local, as you say, standard. It is well known in the States. 27001 is an international standard. The ISO as an organization has 186 or 7 members, state members,
Mm,
and its standards are worldwide recognized. Even countries that are yet to become members recognize the ISO standards. So any organization based in the States operating under SOC 2 Type 2 is quite well organized to operate in a safer way rather not having it.
mhm.
However, 27001 is a step beyond and above SOC 2 because it's recognized worldwide. If this organization in the States works with an organization in Latin America, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, they should work with the ISO 27001 too. Many organizations go for both.
Yes.
We have customers in Europe that operate mostly in Europe, but when you decide just to make their stakeholders feel better, they add SOC 2. Now, with SOC certifications, there is another issue to take into account. SOC needs to be implemented from a different perspective. So we're not entering into too many details, but they are complementary. Okay. Having one doesn't exclude having the other. On the contrary, it's highly recommended when you operate in the States and in Europe, at least, to have both. It makes it easier for you because your stakeholders, European-based stakeholders, would trust you better if you have 27001. And here, as I say, the organizations going for SOC 2, basically because to give further assurance to the US-based stakeholders.
Yes, and my personal experience is that anybody that's providing services for government or aerospace, defense, a lot of my clients, it's required that they have both.
Yeah.
So sorry, go ahead.
Carry on. Okay.
Oh, I'm not sure if you answered the question, this question that I see that popped up here in your answer about SOC 2, Type 2 versus 27001. But if I was a purely domestic company, why would I want 27001 in addition to SOC 2, Type 2 if I'm not really planning on, let's say, going international or don't have any international business at this moment?
Because of the costs of data breach.
Okay.
Back to what 27001 means. As I say, it's an ISO and IEC standard, which SOC is not. 27001 goes into so many details. It looks at so many different aspects that someone who's trying to comply with security may not think of. Curiously, the guidance for the Annex A implementation of the standard talks about how to protect your laptop when you travel. And they even raise the guidance not to buy a branded bag.
Interesting. Okay.
So this is the kind of level the standard goes, that kind of detail the standard goes into. Another recommendation, it's not a recommendation actually, it's an actual control, is to have all the clocks synchronized.
Correct.
Okay.
It might seem something common sense, might seem something kind of, why do we have a control on that one? But honestly, if your clocks are not synced and you have a breach, you can't detect the same way you would detect it if everything was synced by default.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, but some people don't think about it. And the standard comes in to help them identify every single simple, remotely relevant detail that can protect them.
Right. Okay. So it's not just necessarily like purely for security. It's also to optimize efficiency and just really reduce a headache that somebody, a CEO, a head of IT might experience as a result of improper management.
Absolutely. For instance, back to the IBM report, do you know how many organizations in percentage pass the cost of data breaches to their customers?
I wouldn't even know what a good number would be to start with, so I don't know.
60%.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, as you say, Kai, it's a business management system as well, because if you suffer continual data breaches or data breaches, generally speaking, your costs increase. You have to pass them, you will pass them down to your customers. You're less competitive compared to your competitors who protect their businesses better.
Right. So what I'm kind of hearing though is that, on one side you have the cost of a data breach, right? Which is what you said, I think was 4.35 million. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So that's a very high cost in comparison to the cost of obtaining an ISO certification, correct? So,
Absolutely.
you've got to kind of, I guess, in a way, spend money to prevent yourself from losing money, or spend money to make money in this case, because not only are you getting that certificate, but you're also getting, all of the, like you said, the management help, the safety protocols, all of that. So that would, I would imagine, increase efficiency and increase profits for a lot of companies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Pamela usually explains it in a very clear manner when, Pamela, when you say that actually some organizations can't even work out how much they can lose in not because they may not get as many contracts they could if they have the system implemented.
Absolutely. And we know, Maria and Kai, that Harvard studies have proven for every $1 that an organization spends in ISO certifications, that they'll see a minimum of a $6 to $16 return on investment to that $1. So it's proven by having any ISO certification stamp on your website that it will gain you business. It adds exceptional value to your organization and what you're offering. And we all know that some people just look to do business with ISO 27001 certified organizations because they know that their personal data, social security number, checking account, credit cards, at personal home address will be protected.
So I've actually got a question about that, Pamela, then. So with the cost of an ISO certification, would I be able to, let's say, recoup some of that cost in terms of, like, I guess, taxes? So could I use that as like a business expense, is what I'm saying, or what I'm asking?
Absolutely. Yes, not only
Okay.
is it 100% deductible, all expenses. So let's say we're talking $30,000, just hypothetical cost. 100% of that is deducted off of an organization's cost of doing business. So for their taxes, they get to write off that $30,000. Plus, there's two other benefits when it comes to taxes, is they can actually get R&D credits because ISO 27001 does actually fall into that. So that's another benefit. And then dependent on what industry they're in and how they use this, they're able to take other advantages of different ways to be able to get tax credits. So there's usually like two or three options on how a firm can actually get this paid for through R&D tax credits, but also write off 100% of the $30,000 off of their income for this calendar year.
Okay, great. So there's really no downside to getting this certification. You only see positives and, the upsides of it, correct?
Absolutely.
I would agree as well.
Yeah.
Another thing, because Pamela mentioned different sectors, just to say again, we mentioned this average figure of 4.35 million per breach, that honestly, it depends also on the sector. For instance, in health, it's over 10 million per breach. In finance, it's 9.
Wow.
In pharmaceutical, it goes down to 5. In, let's say, in communication, telecoms, etc., it goes down to 3.5. So as you can see, depending on factors, the cost of the bridge is different, and the reading of this data, for me, what I see in here is that, let's say, telecoms are better prepared to deal with breaches rather than health and finance. So this is probably the first and most take of that report. Again, the report is available on the internet, and I invite everyone interested in learning more about the cost of data breaches to find out to find the report and go through it and ask questions to MSM, Kai, Pamela, myself, and ask why they should think of implementing 27001.
So I heard you mention, that finance and the healthcare industry are two of them that, lead, I guess, in terms of how expensive a data breach is. Would you also say that a healthcare industry and the finance industry, that those two are more, I guess, targeted than the pharmaceutical industry? Or are they all kind of at the same risk for a data breach?
Well, if you have a look at the CIIS website, you'll see that pharmaceutical and health are nearly equally targeted. Pharmaceutical are better prepared to fight away breaches because of their capability. Let's say they're more strict with security. I'm not saying that health is not, but health, let's say, gathers so many data points that it is more difficult to protect them, if it makes sense.
Right.
Let's say you target a hospital. There is so much data in a hospital by data points that it's difficult to protect it, and it's easier to hack it.
Right.
When it comes to pharmaceutical, is different. Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. At that point, though, if you have more data points, you'd have more to lose, correct, too?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So financial is the same. More data points.
Okay.
Yeah.
That answers my question then. Thank you. Another one that I had actually was, let's say I was a customer or a company that is paying for cybersecurity, or I have servers that are not on site, so not at my actual location. Let's say I'm doing it through cloud computing or something like that, where I'm not necessarily the person running my own cybersecurity. How could 27001 benefit me in that case?
That's a very good question. Just as a fact, 45% of breaches occur on the cloud. On average, we're talking private, hybrid, and public cloud.
Wow. Okay.
And yeah, most of the breaches on cloud occur on private cloud. So organizations holding information should go for hybrid or private cloud. So please don't use public that much for your safety. So 27001 has specific controls on your supplier relationship. It helps you identify how to work with suppliers to prevent breaches up or down the supply chain. And this is the reason many organizations, big organizations that get to implement 27001 actually ask their suppliers to have it.
Okay.
It protects them from breaches as well.
Gotcha. So really a breach could happen, it doesn't have to happen within your company. It could happen with a company that you're working with. So in your case, you said the suppliers or the cloud computing, whoever you're doing that business with, that could happen through anything, right?
Absolutely. That can happen through devices that previously were analog devices, and now they go live on internet because they are already internet enabled, because of their life cycle having expired, or because we work remotely as well. So those devices, let's say a temperature detector,
Right. Yeah,
it's a simple device, but if it is an analog device, you cannot hack it.
Right.
When it becomes an enabled device to gather information, it's quite an easy target, hackers.
Right. And another point that I always like, because I'm speaking to accounts all the time, almost every day, every week, they say, "Oh, well, we have an outside service that's protecting us, and we're paying, $8,000 a month for their services, and I'm sure we're completely protected because we're paying a service." And that is that there's no protection with that, in the sense that they're not being, unless they have ISO 27001 certification there with their firm covering all of their data and their servers on site, they really don't have the protection that they really need. Correct, Maria?
Well, no one is 100% protected, and the only standard, the only tool you really have to somehow achieve better protection would be the standard, because it requires for top management to be fully engaged with the system, to take responsibility for the system, including annual reviews, in many cases, even more often than once per year, because it's information security. Having an external support, that's brilliant, that's okay, but it's something like having a warden outside in there, going through the neighborhood once every 2 hours and protecting my house. If I don't lock it,
Right.
the warden will do nearly nothing if someone decides to come in. So let's think about it. Organizations need an internal system to be able to assess their risks. Unless we assess internally and we review what we have in-house, we can't be that well protected. Well, again, it's really good to have external support. That adds to the whole thing, but cannot just substitute the need for an internal management system.
Right. That's very well put. Thank you, Maria. That's great.
Do we have time for one more question?
Yes, please.
Okay. So if I was just, let's say, like a retail company or a company that wasn't necessarily involved in tech. So I know like the healthcare companies, they would be involved in tech in a way, but if I was, let's say, just not involved in tech at all, how would 27001 benefit me? Such as like if I was a manufacturing company, I guess would be a good example.
If you're a manufacturing company, you still have data, a
Okay.
lot of data. And your competitors or hackers might decide to hijack your data. So you need to protect your organization, you need to protect your customers, your stakeholders as well. So no one wants to get their data hijacked. Or you can, for instance, if you're a hacker, you can stop someone from producing. It's not a highly tech company, but still it's an industrial entity. It must keep going on.
Right. So we all know what happened I guess it was 2 weeks ago with Ferrari. That's a very good example. They are a manufacturer, but they hold a lot of clients' data. Maria, if you have a quick second, do you want to give the details about what exactly happened with Ferrari?
Well, I don't think I'm quite acquainted with what happened with Ferrari. Honestly, I'm not exactly the right person to answer this question.
Okay.
I know they got hacked, and by what I read, basically they got hacked via an operational technology device, which means it could be everything from a printer to a thermostat or whatever device, operational device it might be. A temperature indicator, your let's say air conditioning, if it's a enabled air conditioning unit as well.
Kai, you know the details. I want you to go ahead and just give a brief synopsis of what exactly happened and how it affected their customers, Ferrari's customers.
So my understanding was that they were being held. Ferrari was being held, I guess, for ransom. They had to either pay the money or they would release, the hackers in this case would release private data for their customers, internal data, all of that. And as we know, generally the people that are buying Ferraris have a lot of money, so they do have bank account numbers, routing numbers, everything that would be extremely bad for them and any of the companies that they own or that they are part of, if that were to be leaked. So I'm not sure exactly. I haven't seen anything regarding what Ferrari has decided to do going forward. But all I do know is that, as Maria said, I think it was something internally that was hacked into, and that could mean a lot of disaster for them and their customers. And I would imagine too, if customers' data were to get leaked, then like I said about the companies that they head or the companies that they're part of, that puts those companies at a higher risk of another cybersecurity attack, like Maria, I think, mentioned in the earlier bits of this live session.
Absolutely. And we also have the fact that it was ransomware, to where their data was being held ransom. And, I don't know to this minute whether or not Ferrari paid that ransom money, but from what I knew, I believe it was a week ago, they had not.
So that would increase the cost of, they have to pay the ransom if they want to, I guess, fix this problem. And on top of that, they would also have to pay the cost of, I guess, securing
the
their
ransom.
data for the future, correct?
Correct. And quick question, by the way, because it's kind of interesting to know it. How long do you think it takes to identify and contain a ransomware attack?
I would imagine it's probably similar to the cybersecurity one. So maybe, I think you said 270 days.
Well, it takes longer. For a ransom attack to be identified only, it takes 237 days on average and 89 to contain it.
Wow.
People don't realize that a ransom attack doesn't happen from now to tomorrow morning. It takes quite a lot of work, mining and identifying the way to get through the defenses before it actually hijacks the data.
And I would imagine the longer that the ransomware is in their system, the more data that they're accumulating, correct?
Yeah, they mine data for as long as possible. Aside from ransomware attack, just to mention the other very bad kind of attacks, that would be the destructive kind of attacks, because ransomware attacks, with those, they mine your data, they hijack it, but you can actually get it back. When a destructive attack happens, it means that the hackers go for your organization to destroy it. So, and it takes 233 days on average to detect a destructive attack and 91 days to contain it, if at all.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why a lot of businesses go completely out of business once they're attacked. And, I know out here in the USA that it's a minimum of 60% of the businesses that do get cyber attacked or corporate espionage. It's more than 60% actually go out of business because they don't have the funds to recover.
Yeah, wow. And it links to the figure of 60% of organizations that pass the cost of breach on to their customers. So if you have to increase your costs, passing them on to the customers, you're no longer that competitive.
Right. If I could just add one more thing too, I'm always talking to firms and organizations and companies that are small, all the way up to very large, and I don't know what that noise is, but I even have accounts that I have 3 people, but what they're doing is so important and so confidential that because they even have just 3 people in their firm, they do need and they do get ISO 27001 certification. So a lot of companies say, do I have to, have a lot of employees or have been in business for 10 years or 5 years? And I always say no, because it depends on what you're doing for you as your organization. What do you do? How confidential is the information? And you want to be able to have systems in place to where you're not going to get hacked through your thermostat, which I've had clients that did get attacked through their printer because it was connected to the Wi-Fi all the way to the thermometer. But I think we have a hard stop. Do we need to be going at this point, Maria?
As you like, guys. We can, if you have more questions, we can keep talking about it. I have some time left before my next meeting.
Okay. Kai, do you have another question?
No, I'll have to think for a little bit. Do you have any questions?
So back, Pamela, to your point with small companies. Let's have a look. Blockchain organizations are not normally big organizations, are they? There we go. They need to protect what they do.
Yes.
They're normally startups and small organizations. So here we have the answer. On top of that, let me just add that 7001 is a standard that doesn't need to be implemented within the whole organization, but only for an activity, a process, or a department that manages vulnerable information. So if you are a multinational company with 50,000 people working for you, but you have 500 people handling that kind of information, we'll be implementing 27001 for those people and department or processes the information is handled and managed, not the whole organization.
Okay.
Good point.
So, that gives me a little bit of a question, I guess. And that is, for those smaller companies, obviously, if they were to be attacked with a cyber attack or ransomware, that would be more detrimental to them because they might not have, I guess, the funds to even pay for it, like Pamela said. But my question would be, would it be better if I'm a smaller company to get this certification now, even though I'm not necessarily planning on going international in, let's say, a few months, maybe a few years later down the line? I guess what I'm asking is it better to implement the standard as a smaller company while you're growing, or is it better to implement it once you've already grown?
Well, ISO standard can be implemented by any kind of organization, independently of their size, volume, culture, etc. My personal recommendation, get started as soon as possible, because as your organization grows, your standard, your system grows and does it consistently in a very nice manner. Don't wait to grow to start implementing the system because it might be too late for you. Please take into account the fact that implementing an ISO 27001 standard takes quite a long time to get it well done. It may take many months before you can say, yeah, now it's a functioning system. It starts helping organizations from the beginning.
Right.
But you can be ready for a full certification over a longer period.
Okay. So I'm kind of getting the feel here that if I'm a smaller company, then by doing it earlier on, I'm giving myself a stronger foundation to build off of in the future. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And
Okay,
plus,
great.
Kai, it actually puts, as we were talking about, systems in place, protocols in place, processes in place, and whether that even include like steps that you take when you hire somebody on, and then also when you fire somebody or somebody quits, and everything in between. So those are very important items and to be able to have covered for security protection.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. So, especially if you're a smaller company too, I feel that you might have, you might be able to spend a little bit more time, or it's easier, it's more efficient, I guess, and it will benefit you in the long run to spend a little bit more time now as you're growing rather than um, spend that time when you've already grown. Because I would assume then, you have a lot more customers and a lot more tasks that you have to complete. So you might not be able to give that necessarily your full time and attention.
That's correct. And in addition, I would like to say that if you're a small company, you're very welcome to call us, Amazon, because at Amazon, we specialize with small, medium-sized companies, micro, small, medium-sized. So we have a very specific methodology that allows us to give them better support, more support, and teach them how to approach the system management and make it bigger and bigger while they grow in their business sector as well. So if you're a small, medium, or micro company, consultants, assessors such as IMSM, well suited to help you.
Absolutely.
So what IMSM does then, I guess in a nutshell, is help companies of all sizes that may be frustrated or confused and where to start or how to go about the ISO certification and implementation procedure. So we kind of guide them through that, and assist with all the headaches and all of the little hiccups, I guess, that may arise during that process. So it's not like the customer is doing this all alone. We're
No.
guiding them hand in hand through the whole entire process.
Yeah, that's correct, Kai. And we say that IMSM, once they are assigned an ISO IRCA 20, ISO 27001 certified assessor slash auditor, that auditor slash assessor does 75% of the work for them. So as you pointed out, Kai, is they do hold their hand in the entire process. And from start to finish, we even help, as far as the assessor auditor, even prepares them for their certification audit. So therefore, they're prepared to be in that certification audit. They have a really good idea of what questions are going to be asked, what evidences they're going to have to be able to provide, what documents that certification auditor is going to want to see. So I always say that IMSM offers a turnkey, fail-safe approach to ISO certifications. So for 35 years, IMSM has been providing consultancy services for ISO. And so I always say that we're, the big daddy in the industry because we've got 35 years of experience of success with ensuring certifications with ISO.
That's very important. And as you say, Pamela, it's a really, really good asset to have all those assessors. We all trained as certified by the IRCA, which is the International Register for Accredited for auditors, ISO auditors. So we all practice auditing as well. So our customers actually talk to very well qualified and very experienced people.
And that's throughout the entire procedure, correct? So they're getting our full help and support through the very beginning all the way to the end and even after that, correct?
That's correct, Guy. So when we take on an implementation, we accompany our customers during their certification audit as well. So we are there for them.
Okay, so I'm hearing that we're putting the customer's needs and their best interest forward.
That's the ISO way.
Absolutely.
So, guys, if you don't have any further questions, we can ask Caroline, who's behind the scenes. Caroline is part of our marketing department, to just cancel already this meeting, and we can reconvene any other time.
Well, I want to
Sounds
say
good.
thank you guys for
Thank
letting me
you.
partake in this, and I definitely learned a lot, and I hope that the viewers watching it have also learned as much as I have, or maybe even more.
Thank you,
Sounds-
Kai. Thank you, Pamela.
Thank you, guys. Always
Thank
nice
you.
to be with you.
Thank you. Caroline, can you please take